Hello, happy Sunday, and I'm just going to jump right in. Before I convince myself not to make a video, I don't want to leave gaps in my video channel, but I am so busy and I did not even get the house finished cleaning yesterday, so I have that problem going on. So the temptation was to just sit back and drink my coffee until the next mass I'm going to be singing at. But instead, I just brought my coffee in my miraculous St. Patty's Day mug right here with me out in the obviously messed up shed, or let's just say it's a work in progress. Like everything in life, it's a work in progress out here. Yeah, so I am drinking, and now I don't remember. It's either Starbucks or Peet's, one or the other. The two top coffees you can buy here locally in town without having to mail order. Roswell being the agricultural town that it is, when I first moved here, you could hardly even get exotic spices in this town. And I remember wandering the aisles looking for things, and somebody who was visiting from outside Roswell, they gave an exasperated sigh and said aloud, "Can you find anything in the grocery store here?" And I just laughed because, yeah, that was my experience. Now, I moved here from Socorro, which is a smaller town. Roswell has about 50,000 people. That's the official count. I don't think that we get a very accurate count when they come around to do the census. So we end up getting a smaller count than we should have. I'm sure that we have more than 50,000 people. That's the way it seems to me when I am running around town, but maybe just I'm so used to a smaller level of traffic that any extra traffic or people at the grocery store, and I feel like I'm being encroached on all sides by too many people. But whatever. So somewhere between 50 and 80,000, I would guess, would be the accurate number of how many people live in Roswell. I moved here from a town that had about 8,000, and it had 8,000 because there was a college there. But that was also why we could get fancier food and coffee, because there was a college. And you can always get fancier things because professors and students are poor, but professors, they might like to have their gourmet coffee or whatever and not have to drive to Albuquerque to purchase it, because before we had a Walmart in Socorro, it seemed like that's what you had to do to even get normal food supplies outside of the average food supplies. I don't know if that makes any sense. What I mean is that if your local population is a white rice population, that's what you're going to find on the store shelf of a small town. You will not even find brown rice. Now, in my early days, as an adult, young adult, I thought that brown rice was healthier. And in some ways, of course, it is, because it has more B vitamins and it has more fiber. However, it is also harder to digest and has that little problem called arsenic. And rice will soak up arsenic in ground water when the rice paddies are flooded, and there are certain areas of the world where there's more arsenic than others. And if you are getting rice, like say from the southern part of the United States, you're going to have very high arsenic in your rice, and you don't really want that. But you can reduce the level by eating white rice, and white rice is easy to digest, and you can have all kinds of fiber-filled vegetables on top of your rice. That's good. Or legumes are also very high fiber, so if you're eating beans and rice, you're going to be getting fiber. So brown rice is just not something I would buy, but back in those days, I thought that was healthier and really wanted to buy brown rice for certain recipes, and I could not get it in town. And yeah, I remember being very frustrated about that. And like, I have to go to Albuquerque or Los Lunas just to get brown rice. That's ridiculous. But that was me as a young adult. I've gone through many iterations of what I thought was healthy to eat, and mostly right now it's just whatever does not give me a massive allergic reaction. That's what I consider to be healthy to consume. I just anything above and beyond that is just I've tried so many diets to be healthier, and the worst was vegetarian or vegan, anything going too much that direction, just really, really awful. That was the worst ever. And then second to that was keto. Keto was the second worst diet I've ever been on for my health. And for me, when I say that, I'm not usually trying to lose weight. It's usually to fix my digestive problems and to just make me healthier and more energetic. So I've tried various diets over the years to achieve that. And those were the two worst, but the one absolute really bad was the plant-based, because it caused massive inflammation in my body. My body could not handle that at all. That was horrible. And keto was the second worst, because it just has a really bad effect on some women. And it's not a small number of women, but a lot of women do keto. They try it when they're older anyway, so they may not notice. They may not notice that, say, their female cycle has ceased to exist because they've already gone through menopause and they're trying to just lose their menopausal weight. And so that's not really even an issue for them. And so there are a lot of women do keto just fine. But for me, when I was doing it, it completely ceased that part of my, and on one hand, I'm like, well, that's nice to make it go away. But on the other hand, that's not really a sign of good health to have that just cease and desist from one's life. So keto is not good for a lot of women, and I wish people would talk about that a little more, because you don't find that in the keto community. You don't hear people talking about that. They just, I think that these diet dictocrats, they're following a religion in a sense, because I guess they don't have a God to follow. They've lost their religion at some point, and so diet becomes their religion. I would hate for that to ever be the case for me, to ever religiously follow an exercise or diet routine. That is almost like worshiping oneself, worshiping one's own body and image, and I can't imagine living that way. How empty and meaningless would that be, to not have God reigning in my heart and have myself and my own health reigning supreme. And I've always tried to live in a healthy manner. So I guess when you are into fitness and you are into dieting, that happens, that sort of, you can cross that line into self-worship. And I never want to do that ever. I was not going to talk about this today. I don't even know where that came from, but probably had something to do with the birds, because I just heard bird song outside. Do you hear that? I have a pair of blue jays that live outside my office. There used to be one blue jay that always visited me. Now there's a pair, and blue jays are I don't know if they mate for life, but I think they do. I think they're one of the birds that do, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I didn't really look that up. But these blue jays are always together. They're so cute. Anyway, I've heard that blue jays are mean, but in a world where cats will eat little birds, I can understand why being mean might be a good attribute to have. Anyway, they've built a nest, and they're cute. They come, like, get there's a new tree just planted outside my office. The previous one had been cut down, and how disappointing. It was a beautiful tree. I mean, it wasn't my tree, but I called it my tree because it was so beautiful. And of course, I was the person who was staring at it all day. Anyway, that tree was cut down because it had a disease and it could not be fixed. And so a new tree was planted there, and the well below the tree fills up with water, and the birds will come and drink at the well. They're so beautiful, the blue jays. I love that. I love seeing that, because it's, otherwise, what do we have here? Always, we have of course, pigeons. We have pigeons always, and and woodpeckers. Oh my goodness, we have woodpeckers. They peck at all kind of parts of the church and do a lot of damage, those woodpeckers. So when I hear that, I know that the woodpeckers are at work, and somebody needs to go get a shotgun and kill the woodpeckers, or a pellet gun, or whatever. I don't know, maybe a shotgun would be a little bit much. I don't even know why I said that. That would that would be a little ridiculous. Anyway, so this particular video was supposed to be about my writing life. I really, really do want to make another video interview, but I have people again who have said yes, but they're busy, or this one is having surgery, or what, you know, there's all kinds of issues. So I will probably have to go back and, hi puppy, I will probably have to come say hi. I will probably have to get somebody like Mark back on because he's available. Hi. Yes, he likes to video bomb me. Mr. Samora is here. Yes, Mr. Fluffhead. Yes, so I was going to talk about my writing life, and this phone that I'm videoing on is where I do most of my writing. But writing is really, really hard. And I think it was Hemingway who said that, oh, writing's no big deal, you just bleed on the page. I think that was Hemingway, but again, I'm running off the cuff and not looking anything up. And so yeah, you can check that for me too, or maybe I'll fact check myself later to see if it was Hemingway who said that you just sit down and at a typewriter and bleed. And now Hemingway was a very depressed man, and I cannot believe I used to love his books. In high school I really liked his books, and when I was a young adult, but I was sort of protected against that depression that I get from reading dark literature now. I can't handle it. I spent my 20s reading a lot of Russian literature, and that was really dark, and I don't think I could handle it now. I still really like Chekhov because Chekhov has a dark sense of humor, and he also wrote a lot of short stories. So if I just read his short stories and then I give a chuckle, and then I can move on to something else. But other than that, I will not read Russians, and I won't read Hemingway because he's depressing. And Hemingway actually committed suicide, so he clearly was depressed. And yeah, I can't read that now. I think when you're in high school, yeah, I was an angsty teen girl in high school, but on the other hand, you are sort of sheltered against a lot of the darker aspects of life if you're living a normal, safe, sheltered childhood with a family that cares for you and protects you. I know not everybody has that, but if you do have that, you're sort of protected. You have this shell. You have that angsty side because yes, you have fluctuating hormones and you're a teenager and you want to be independent and you're rebelling against your authorities. So you are going to naturally be a little more depressed, but there still, like I said, there's like this shelter against the dark things of the world, and reading dark literature does not seem to bother teenagers as much. In fact, they seem to enjoy it and gain some kind of pleasure out of it. And I don't know that I gained pleasure, but my biggest attribute in those days was curiosity, and I was very curious about different authors from different cultures. Hemingway obviously is my own culture, but I was very curious about reading world literature, authors from different cultures. I wanted to see their perspectives and different times. So Hemingway came from a different time for me, and he went through bloody wars, and I think that affected his mind a lot, and that is why he was traumatized to the point that he ended up committing suicide. Suicide is a curse that affects families, and it can be passed down from in the generations. And I believe that Hemingway's, I think his granddaughter committed suicide. At least one other person from his family, his descendants, committed suicide, and that is the curse of suicide. But sometimes you just can't ever get over that trauma without help, and I'm pretty sure that Hemingway did not have the help that he needed, and nobody did. Men didn't really. They didn't really have post-traumatic stress. I think they called it shell shock. Was something that was a term that was created after World War One. For the kind of trauma that the soldiers faced that they had not had to face in previous wars, and so they had a new name for it, and now of course it's going to be PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's a real phenomenon, and without help it's very difficult to get over. I think that it's difficult to get over with help because some of it is just too much for the psyche, the human psyche to handle. And I think it's helpful if we have a community around us of, well, like I have my faith community in the Catholic Church. I don't know what I would do without that community, and I really don't have post-traumatic stress disorder, but life is really hard, and it's hard and it's heartbreaking and it's exhausting. No matter who you are or what you've experienced, it's like that for every human being. And yeah, I don't know what I would do without my church community. They are pretty much, yeah, they're everything to me right now. I mean, I have friends outside that church community, and I have my family and my children who are scattered around the state of New Mexico. But right here in Roswell, that's what I have, is my church community, and they're wonderful. Anyway. So many digressions. Where did I even get on Hemingway? I don't know. I don't have a clue. So how am I supposed to bring it back when I don't know? Anyway, I brought out here in the shed with me my various writing tools. Oh yes, I know. That is what it had to do with how difficult writing is. So it's not that authors are really procrastinators per se, or get distracted easier than other human beings. It's that writing is really, really difficult. And so if you have the internet and you have social media to distract you, yes, you're going to take that distraction because it's easier than writing. And writing is, it's like, sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And yes, I realize if your tooth is just hanging there in your mouth, then it's easier to pull out than others. I remember that from childhood. You know, you always wanted to pull it out so you could get a visit from the tooth fairy, right? Yeah, at least the tooth fairy visited me in my childhood. I don't know if the tooth fairy ever visited you. So sometimes you would like wiggle and wiggle it so you could pull it out. So it was really hard to pull out a tooth unless it was practically hanging there. And thankfully in adulthood, I haven't experienced really losing teeth. That's a good thing. My teeth are so far so good. Yeah. So yes, it would be like pulling a tooth. Writing is like pulling a tooth, because it would really be really difficult to yank a tooth out of my mouth. It would hurt really badly, and they're embedded in there pretty good. Yes, thankfully. Like I said, gosh, the lighting out here is really bad, and because, as you can see, there is construction happening, I don't have any of my lighting set up. I just set up my camera on this space, on this countertop right here, made a space for it and set it up. Why? Because there are too many distractions in the house. Speaking of distractions, out here I only have dogs that come out and distract me. So for distraction-free writing, now I used to be on Facebook, and I did drop Facebook and then recently went back on, but I haven't really used it that much. I would like to convince myself that I can do social media, and I've been told that if I make video reels that I will do better at marketing. I don't know. I just don't know. I really hate Facebook, and I don't really like short videos, so why would I want to make something that I don't like? I don't really like watching those, and my goal is to continue making longer ones and just have people like them. That's my hope. And I know that people do, because I listen to them. Podcasts are a huge thing for a certain audience. Maybe they're not the audience who reads murder mystery, comedy, ghost stories like I'm writing at the moment. So maybe I need to broaden that a little bit and make these reels, these short videos. I don't know. It just seems like something that would not be my cup of tea, because I don't even like watching them. Anyway, my first distraction-free writing machine, and this bag, the zipper's broken. It's old. This is a Dana AlphaSmart machine. I think it was called an AlphaSmart. Anyway, these were made in the 90s and the aughts. I don't know what year this is, but this was a really, you know, it worked really well. Okay, so it has a, right there, a stylus for the touch screen, and that's really what the screen works off of, is a stylus. It doesn't really work off like finger touch. It's got two 1 GB discs. The battery life isn't great. I think I kept it plugged in quite frequently, and then when I was ready to edit, I would transfer everything to my computer, and that was fine. It worked fine. The formatting was pretty bad. I mean, maybe I could have fixed the formatting on here before transferring it to my laptop, but it really wasn't necessary. I just fixed the formatting once it was in my laptop. And as you can see, this is how it's transferred. Yeah, so this is a fairly large screen, and you can go back and you can reread your work, you can edit it as you're going, or you can just back up a little bit to center yourself in the scene that you're in. And so that was useful. I used this for, I'm gonna say, the first draft of the Miniverse was written on here, and then when I finished it and edited it, it went to laptop. So that's really what the era that I was using this was during. I had the kind of job where I was working all hours. I worked nights, I worked mornings, it was terrible. I hated my life at that point. But anyway, I was working nights, I was working mornings, and sometimes I would just want to work on my book either early in the morning or at night, and I didn't want to turn on overhead light. So I used this because there's no backlighting on the screen, so you can't read it unless you have a light on. So I used this, and it worked really well. It just plugs right in, and well, I mean, I'd show you, but the battery's dead on this. I'd have to plug this in to get this light to work. And so that would light up the screen and my fingering, and I could work. So that was the epic of the Alpha Smart. And yes, I liked it. No internet, no Facebook, didn't even have my laptop near me. And at that time, I had a really cruddy phone because I just didn't want a nice phone in those days when I first moved to Roswell. This is the era that we're talking about. And I didn't want a nice phone. I didn't want people to get a hold of me all the time. I didn't want to have social media on my phone. I thought it was really annoying. And my first sort of halfway decent smartphone, like I saw these bobbleheads like popping up on my screen. I'm like, what even is this? So that was Facebook and Messenger. I guess it was Facebook Messenger. And you can disengage that, which I have it disengaged on my phone right now. It's really annoying. It's really annoying to have all these little heads. And sometimes it would happen, like I'd get head after head after head popping up on my screen. I'm like, go away. I don't like this. And this is because I was an editor. And for some reason, when I was editing books for a living or a side living or whatever you want to call it, this is the way authors really wanted to communicate, was through Messenger. Why Facebook Messenger? I don't know. Like, could they have emailed or texted? Yes, but that was the most immediate way they felt like they could get a hold of their editor. And they were probably right. Yeah, when that little bubble pops up, it does get my attention right away. And I'm like exasperated. I'm working on your book right now. Stop messaging me. No, I'm just kidding. Because usually if they had something, it was usually fairly important. It's not like writers just bugged me all the time for no reason at all. So I want to make that clear. I always liked the writers that I edited for. They were always great, you know, and I turned down a lot of people and worked with only the writers that I wanted to work with anyway. So talk about being a little snooty with my editing business. That's the way I was. And it wasn't really how good a writer they were and how much effort that I had to put in, but it was their personality, whether I could get along with them, whether they could receive what I said. And also, some of those writers I worked with for many books, and so I was used to their writing, and yeah, that also helps. Anyway, then the Free Write came out with their original model. I've got it all boxed up here because I don't really use it anymore. This is probably it's crazy because this is probably my favorite distraction-free device. And the reason why is that they actually designed it to make a clattering of keys like a keyboard. And it is like an old typewriter keyboard. And I like that. It has a really pleasant sound. So it's a little heavy. It's a little clunky, but it's not terrible. And it's got a fairly large screen. But one of the problems with this is that the company that created it, or the person who created it, Astro House is the company. I'm not sure who the original creator was. He wanted to not be able to go back and edit and waste time editing. He just wanted to jump into his writing and get it done. So for me, yeah, I don't want to go back and edit anything when I'm writing a rough draft. That is like a trap you can fall in. I don't want that. I don't want to get caught up in that. But in order to get back in, 24 hours apart just is a long time for my brain, and my brain really needs to get back into the scene. So I need to back up a little bit, go back a couple paragraphs, and you can't do that on this. You cannot go backwards at all. And sometimes I would make up a name on the fly because I hadn't put that in my notes or my outline, and I couldn't remember the name, and I couldn't go back and look. And so sometimes I had to just put an asterisk there to remind myself that I need to go back and look this up, because I just don't remember that character's name and I can't really go backwards. And so that's a really annoying thing about the Free Write. But as far as I know, all the Free Writes are like this. I did really enjoy using this one. Yeah, very enjoyable. So that was my second distraction-free device. And here, I'll package it up after I'm done. I'm not going to waste time on my video to do that. Okay, and then where did I put it? Oh, I think it's in here. And then I got the Free Write Traveler, and I do believe that this arrived during the pandemic. I think it was 2020. Anyway, this is a great little device. It weighs almost nothing. You can travel with it. It's got a really nice sized keyboard, a really nice sized screen. But again, like all the Free Writes, you can't go back and edit. But I really enjoyed this. I wrote the rough draft of Order the Pentragon on this book. For the most part, I might have started on the other Free Write, because I would have started on the other Free Write, because there's no other books in between Miniverse and Order the Pentragon. But mostly, when I had started it and I was having a really, really hard time finishing it, pushing through and finishing it, for some reason that was a really hard book for me. And when I got this, I actually pushed through to finish, and I'm really happy I did. And yes, I can remember 2020 was when I started getting up at 6 a.m. to write, and I would just get my writing done, like 1,000 words. Usually it took me 45 minutes, an hour in the first quiet of the morning, and I would write, and then if I had time, I would do a workout. And I think my son was still in school. That was before the shutdown when I first started that. So it was a hard call to try to get all that done before I took him to school, but I could barely manage it. Anyway, it's always good to get a certain amount of things done early in the morning, even if you haven't got a lot of sleep, because then you know you've gotten it done. And if you crash later in the day, if you have time to crash later in the day, because I had a lot of tutoring students at that time in the afternoon, but maybe I could have caught a nap at some point, and knowing that I had already done my writing and my exercise for the day. Well, no, my morning exercise is only half my exercise because I also take a walk. Anyway, you don't really need to know about how obsessive I am about exercise. And, you know, I will tell you one thing about being obsessed with something like exercise. You know, I talked about not making it an idol in your life, not making your own body and your own health an idol. And yes, I get a little obsessive about pretty much everything that I enjoy doing. I have to do them every day. And, well, I want to. I have this inner drive and ambition. So I want to do these things. But I will tell you something, when you've been exercising as long as I have, so since I was about 16, and, you know, it's changed throughout the years. You know, there was at one point in my life when I was just doing Pilates, and gosh, I was so fit at that time. Wow, I was in such good shape. I cannot believe how great my abs were. And I'd had 2 children, so it was really incredible. I'll never get those abs again, probably. I do a lot of Pilates now, but, so I went back. I got really bored with it because I did it for so many years. But I've done all kinds of like strength training and Pilates. And there was a short time that I did yoga before my conscience said, no, you probably shouldn't be doing yoga. It's a religious practice of a religion that you don't follow. And so in that sense, I found it disrespectful to somebody else's religion and inappropriate for a Christian. So that's why I really didn't stick with yoga after a while. That's my personal conscience. Anyway, but I think it's just as disrespectful to another religion as it is wrong for me to follow it in my own. Anyway, if you stop exercising after you've been doing it for 30 plus years, you can't stop. Like, if you stop, your body is going to rebel. Your body won't like it. Your body will no, you have to do this. Your muscles will groan, everything. You can't stop. So just let that be a lesson for you. Not to never start exercising in the first place, because once you start and you do it for enough years, and then you won't be able to stop. I don't think you should let that stop you, but just let it be a lesson to you that your body gets used to a certain amount of movement, and when you cease doing that movement, it doesn't like it. Your muscles will cramp up and start feeling terrible. That's the best way I can describe it. So anyway, do your exercise and don't stop unless you have to. Like, if you injure yourself, maybe you should stop for a little bit, but don't stop permanently, because that's not good either. Yeah, don't be that person that has an injury to their back or whatever, like you pulled a muscle on your back and now you're just going to stop exercising and you're just going to throw in the towel. Don't do it, because your body won't like it, and it will deteriorate, and will deteriorate further and further and further until you're hobbling around on a walker and you can't do anything and go anywhere. That's my biggest fear in life, is being immobile and not being able to do anything. I hate that thought of being old and not being able to do anything. But sometimes you can't do anything to stop it because you really do have an injury that prevents you from doing too much. Let that never happen to me, though. And with that, I'm going to shut this video down, because now you've learned all the distraction-free writing devices that I used to use that I don't use because they don't fit in my back pocket like my phone. Whoever thought that I would ever write entire books on my phone? That's crazy. I just can't believe it. I don't know. So don't let this video be a distraction to you. No, but you should. You should let it be a distraction to you. You should like and subscribe. I should have said that at the beginning. And I know that I haven't played my accordion for a while, but I started feeling like excruciatingly shy about it because I'm not great, but I'm even worse when I play on video. And I can't really trick myself into being a great player. I really want to be a good musician. I just don't think it's what I'm naturally good at. But maybe I will film a little bit of my practice if I have time to practice later. Maybe I'll film a little bit and add it to the front so that you can have the happiness of the accordion and say, well, if Jill is willing to make a fool of herself, then it should be okay for me too, right? Because you only live once and you might as well make a fool of yourself while you're alive, because you can't do it once you're dead. Or I mean, I guess you could, because the videos that you make could still exist, or some stupid thing that you wrote could still be out there existing. So I guess you could make a fool of yourself after you're dead, but it's better just to do it when you're alive and increase your enjoyment that way. So have a great rest of your Sunday.